Is Assassin's Creed Red going to be the next Valhalla, and is that exciting or worrying? Well, depending on who you are and your experience with Assassin's Creed, you might find some of the new information that we now have about Assassin's Creed Red to be really exciting or extremely worrying. I've got stuff from Games Radar as well as Insider Gaming, new information on the playable characters, as well as what Ubisoft sees this title doing for them and its role. And I've got my own theories about what this might look like, because for the longest time, it has been speculated that there will be 2 playable characters in Assassin's Creed Red. And after spending some time in Spider-Man 2 and considering the differences in how you can even play a game like Ghost of Tsushima, I've got some ideas about just how good Assassin's Creed Red could be if what we are hearing is true from some of these leaks, but we'll take a look at those in just a moment. One of the reasons that people are very much concerned, I think, about them continuing the trend with Assassin's Creed Valhalla style games, it's sort of twofold. On one hand, there are the people that think Assassin's Creed games are just too bloated, too full, and they take way too long to complete. There's been a lot of celebration of Assassin's Creed Mirage and even Spider-Man 2 being games that are more in a sort of consumable size. They can be platinumed or completed in a certain amount of time, as opposed to it feeling almost never-ending. Just completing the main story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an incredibly tall order. 100%ing the game is in the hundreds of hours. So many people look at Valhalla and just think that is such an extreme interpretation of what an open world sort of action adventure RPG style game can be. But here's the thing, there's another angle of AC Valhalla that makes people concerned, and it's the live service element, the idea of continuing to add on to a game, not just sort of a one and done, not just like, here's the game, enjoy it, and maybe a little bit of DLC here and there. They invest in the game and have an ongoing plan. I have continued to say that I think live service has a promising future if it's done in the right way and in the right games. When I look at games the size of Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if it would have been a more consumable campaign from the beginning, something like the length of a Jedi Survivor, or something like the length of a Spider-Man 2 or an AC Mirage. It's a little bit more consumable. And then they continue to add on to the game. They expand the world. They add more to the map. So instead of a game like Odyssey or Valhalla feeling incredibly dense right out of the gate, it would be something that they would add on to and invest in as the years go on. And you would not have to engage with those live service elements at all. You could enjoy that launch campaign, play through it, complete it, maybe even get a platinum. And that's the end of the matter for you. You don't have to engage with a live service elements. And one of the reasons that I think this could be a really good thing for games this size is because they spend so much time building this massive world with all these systems and all these characters and environments and places to go. And then you play the game for a couple of weeks, you complete it, and then you're done. Like, look at Spider-Man 2 as an example. This huge map, you've got this huge city, you've got New York and all these stories and side quests and activities, and people are completing the main storyline in 15 to 20 hours. People are platinum the game in between 20 and 30 hours. And so many people look at that and think, that's an incredible experience. It's nice. It's condensed. I can do it. But then the developers might look at it and say, we poured 4 or 5, sometimes 6 years into building this massive world. There are worlds even bigger than Spider-Man 2. And to me, it always makes sense to get a lot of capital out of that and give the consumer ongoing value. I think the reason Valhalla turned a lot of people off is it was already dense and incredible and a stout order if you wanted to play the whole game. And then they kept adding to it. I think a better middle road would be build something that's that large, but don't fill it right away. Don't make it this incredibly dense package of just so much stuff, just such a bloated and overstuffed map. So then as you add to it as the years go on, that could be really enjoyable. And Assassin's Creed Red is a part of this conversation, because if we look at this article from Games Radar, it says here, Assassin's Creed Red, or Assassin's Creed Japan, will be the next major game in the franchise from Ubisoft Quebec, following the success of the 2020 Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So it's the same team. Developer Mark Alexis Cote, who has served as both creative director and producer on some of the best Assassin's Creed games, described codename Red, as Ubisoft's, quote, next premium flagship title, before teasing that it will, quote, be the future of our open world RPG games on Assassin's Creed. So this is the next step. If you didn't like what they did with Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, this is springboarding off of that. And it's from the team that did Valhalla. So that's why I'm thinking this could essentially be Assassin's Creed Valhalla 2.0. And as I said, some people really find that concerning. They don't want a live service Assassin's Creed game. They don't want this big, massive experience that feels like the map is bloated. Now, AC Mirage has seemingly gotten good reception. I myself enjoyed the first couple of hours in it. Now, I had to go back to Phantom Liberty. I wanted to get that done before Spider-Man 2 came out. Those were things that were more demanding of my time as well as my preferences. But I definitely could see myself going back and finishing AC Mirage because I know it's consumable. It's fun, it's a return to form, and I really was enjoying my time with it. And that is, I think, something to be celebrated. But that doesn't mean that we can't do other game types. I think if they could continue doing games of that size and delivery, like AC Mirage, that would then leave room for the bigger games, the more ongoing games. That would allow Assassin's Creed Red to be that game. But the details that we have from Insider Gaming about the two playable characters, I think makes it look a little interesting. Like, what would an ongoing Assassin's Creed or a big, huge open world RPG Assassin's Creed look like from what we're hearing? Well, let's take a look. It says here, as reported exclusively by Insider Gaming, Assassin's Creed Red will feature two playable characters for the series slated at 2024 entry. One is a female shinobi, as shown in the leaked character at an official codename Red tease, and the other is a male African samurai who is theorized to be based on real-life samurai Yasuki. Now, we looked into this because my daughter loves shinobis. She's going as a ninja for Halloween, and she went as one last year as well. She was basically Ronin from the Avengers, and now she's got like a really cool like black and red ninja suit. And so she was sort of upset when the Alexa said there were no female shinobi, or they were traditionally male or something like that. So we looked this up, and it's actually pronounced kunoichi, kind of like that. I'm probably not saying it exactly right, but there are female shinobi, and you can look this up. Go look it up. They seem awesome. They seem, like ruthless killers, like, doing assassinations and stuff, focusing on stealth, focusing on guerrilla warfare, sort of doing things in the shadows. And so this could actually be, I think, true to history. That is something Assassin's Creed games try to do to a certain degree. Now, I know they've kind of gotten away with that. It doesn't seem like it's so much focused on the historical tourism of the older games with the newer games. But that could be, I think, really, really enjoyable having these two playable characters. And the first thing I thought of when I read this was, I thought of a couple of things. The first thing I thought of was Spider-Man 2. In Spider-Man 2, no spoilers, there are things that only Miles Morales can do, and there's things only Peter Parker can do, and it shows you with their little icon. There are things in the open world that only like Miles can do, like puzzles to solve. Only he can do them. And then there's things that only Pete can do. And so you have to switch characters in order to do that. But there are missions and open world activities and things you can do as either character, just depending on what you want to do. Now, the differences between Peter Parker and Miles Morales are not that stark. We're talking about having a ninja that's all about stealth and a samurai that would be all about honor and having a code and facing somebody face to face in like a duel style. And then that made me think of Ghost of Tsushima. So Ghost of Tsushima, in my opinion, is one of the best games ever made. It's one of my favorites, and I think they absolutely nailed the open world action adventure RPG. It feels, I think, wonderful. The story is fantastic. I encourage everybody to play this game and play it with the Japanese voice actors. It just feels fantastic. But something they do in that game, again, no spoilers, but something they do in that game is they allow you to play like a more traditional samurai. You can go into an outpost and just face everybody head on with your sword, take them on. Or you can sneak. You can get up on rooftops and sneak around in tall grass and do assassinations and use like smoke, bombs, and all this stuff. And you can kind of switch between the two. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to try to go stealthy, and you get discovered, no big deal. You're a killer samurai. You're awesome, and you take everybody out. Something they could do in Assassin's Creed Red is, think about Spider-Man 2 and how I described it, and think about Ghost of Tsushima, and imagine an open-world action-adventure RPG, and you come up to an outpost, and you can play it as either character, and you decide, well, I'm going to be the shinobi. Well, the shinobi would have strengths and weaknesses, right? If you get discovered, it's going to be kind of tough, right? You're more stealthy. You don't necessarily have maybe the swordsmanship or the defense-offense balance of the samurai. Maybe you decide to do it as the samurai, but you can't suddenly decide, well, I want to go stealthy, I want to hide. Nope. You've committed to play as that character for that particular outpost and or mission. And I think that could be a really, really enjoyable way to play a game like this. You could even have missions that only the samurai can do, only the shinobi can do. You're like basically giving you places and areas that are only accessible to one of the characters. Because I think if you were to do this right, this could be a big step in innovation and evolution for Assassin's Creed. Instead of being like, well, do you want to play as the girl or the guy? It's like, no. Because that was something my producer said. He's like, I don't know. This is kind of worrying. He's like, what if they're just kind of do Valhalla in feudal Japan? Pick the guy, pick the girl. All right, see you later. And as I read it, I said, I don't think so. Because a shinobi would be so much different as a character, as a playable character, than a samurai. There'd be a lot more of a focus on stealth. And we're hearing, okay, this is what Insider Gaming is saying, right? That Insider Gaming has learned that Assassin's Creed Red is set to focus on stealth, taking features and inspirations from the likes of the Splinter Cell series. For example, players will use shadows to conceal themselves, as well as extinguish torches to stay in the dark. Enemy bodies can also be picked up and moved to hard-to-find locations. Now, here's the thing. A samurai is not going to be doing that, okay? If he's an actual samurai and he's sticking to the code, that he wouldn't do that, right? Like, I'm not an expert, but that's kind of part of the storyline of Ghost of Tsushima, so I'm kind of speaking around it. I don't want to spoil the game for you. So I would think that would be what they're describing there. That'd be the heavy focus for the shinobi, and then the samurai would have a very, very different style of play and then wouldn't have those options available to you. And so what this would do is it would give the game a lot of depth and a lot of vibrancy, potentially even more than Spider-Man, because a lot of the moves that Miles does, Peter has a similar move. They just do it with different, electricity or different flourishes, but you essentially have a dashing move and a lift everybody in the air move and a slam move, and they're very different and they sound very different, but they're fundamentally you're executing kind of the same maneuver. And I think this game could be very different, because you could definitely have that feel of, no, I want to be the assassin, I want to be the ninja in the shadows, knowing that if you get discovered, you're not going to be as strong in the, head-on combat and the close quarters combat. That was something that people wanted to see in Mirage, make it more punishing when you get discovered. But if you're like, no, I'm actually really confident in my ability to fight, I'm just going to walk in here as a samurai and be like, yo, what's up? Let's fight. I'll take you guys on. And you just, sword to sword. So I am actually very excited about this game. I do think there is concern about, you have, Sekiro, you have Ghost of Tsushima, we know that Rise of the Ronin is on the way, Phantom Blade Zero. A lot of games are seemingly sort of taking place in this style and in this area and in this time period. It might feel like Assassin's Creed's kind of late to the party. I've always said one of the reasons we likely saw them hold off on jumping to feudal Japan is I really feel like Ghost of Tsushima beat them to the punch. Tsushima really built a game where you get to play in what feels like an Assassin's Creed could have been. Now, it doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed, but it feels like if Assassin's Creed wanted to evolve in that direction. Like, look at AC Valhalla, like very, very little focus on stealth. You can do it if you want, but it's very much a different game. It's far more action adventure. It's far more focused on the combat, which is totally fine. I've never been against that evolution. I could see that evolutionary arc landing in a game that looks an awful lot like Ghost of Tsushima. And maybe their way of avoiding that comparison is being like, no, two playable characters, very different. You divide them right down, and depending on what the player chooses and what the player does, really alters the outcome of missions, really alters maybe even the outcome of the story. Like, if you do things in a certain way, maybe certain things are just closed off to you, like, nope, you went in and you killed that guy in a dishonorable way, so there's a whole mission thing not available to you, right? If you lean heavy on Shinobi and lean heavy on Samurai, that would affect side quests and main quests and what you could do and what NPCs you could interact with. So for me, this is exciting. I'm not worried. I know people look at this and think, hey, here we go again. The team that made Valhalla, it's just going to be another Valhalla. I wish I would have had time to play AC Valhalla instead of missing out on it, because I'm pretty sure I would have enjoyed it. I love these kinds of games, and I'm really hopeful that AC Red can nail this. I would love to know what you think. Do you think we're going to get 2 playable characters? What about my theories about playing through and switching depending on what you want to do, or even particular missions that aren't accessible? Leave a comment below, or you can ride this over into a members-only debrief. If you want to become a member, hit the join button. It's $5 a month, and you get into a lot of my extra content. If you don't do memberships on YouTube, or you're not going to do one on this channel, that's fine. Make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button. That way I can see you in the next video.